Hey, it's Jay. I wanted to extend a special thanks to those of you who have listened and left reviews on iTunes for this podcast. Please leave a review if you haven't done so already. We sincerely appreciate it. We're producing this show independently, and unfortunately, that is not free. We have to pay for digital hosting space, software, equipment, websites, and travel out of our own pockets. But we'd love to keep this show going as long as possible. Please show your support for this podcast and give it life by making a donation to www.bigbuckregistry.com/donate or pledge your support by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/pledge. You can also find our app in our Apple App Store called Big Buck Deer Hunter 2015 and in the Google Play Store for Google and Android devices. Thanks for your support and enjoy the show. Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 115. Brandon Grindle from Buck 50, Deer Hunting Inside City Limits. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey everybody, this is Craig Cushman at Hunter Specialties, and you're getting ready to hear another great podcast from the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hi there, this is Dan Spencer from Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm an urban deer hunter. Get ready for another great episode with Jay and Dusty on the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hi, this is Michael Montgomery from the Hoosick Area QDM Co-op, and I shot Buck Nasty. And you're listening to my favorite hunting podcast ever, Jay and Dusty on the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I certainly am, and it's got that crisp coolness in the air, and I'm sure some of you that are listening to this have engaged in a bow hunt somewhere, and many of you others that are listening to this probably haven't but want to, like I do badly. So, and I'm sure the fellow on the other line with me right now is thinking about it too. Dusty Phillips from Ohio. What's happening, Dusty?
I've quit thinking about hunting.
You're a liar.
I have.
And why would you do that?
Because I'm ready to hunt. I ain't ready to think about it anymore. I'm ready to hunt.
Dude, I had this.
I'm like jealous of all these people that are posting pictures with bucks already.
I got to figure out how to hunt in Utah. They have like the earliest season that starts anywhere.
Yeah, Kentucky's been in since like the 1st of September.
Right. I know. People are showing me some big bucks, and I'm a bit envious, but I don't have any plans to travel, and I'm just going to wait for the season to roll around in New Hampshire. And I think you're waiting too, right? It hasn't opened up in Ohio.
No, not yet. It's 26th September. Ohio opens up, and I'm excited about it, but yet I'm holding out a little bit. But that's okay. I got some pretty exciting things coming for me as far as some situations I'll be able to hunt in this year, and opportunity to go to New Hampshire and hunt with you is going to be perfect.
I'm psyched about that. I stepped outside today, and there was a coolness in there. Now it wasn't cold, but it still had some temperature to it. But there was a cool rain that started to fall, and I just stopped for a second to think about me in a ground blind or just moving through the woods with my bow and arrow, and this mist on your face, and just seeing a deer start to move and pulling that arrow up and drawing back and getting ready, and it brought back every ounce of love I have for this sport that you can imagine. I wasn't even doing it. I was just thinking about it.
Right. It doesn't take much to bring that the drive and the energy of hunting back to you. I could tell in Ohio here it's getting close.
Yeah.
You drive down the road and the corn's starting to dry out and the soybeans are turning yellow. They're starting to lose their leaves in a lot of places. It's not very far.
Yeah. It was that thing that happened, if it was 5 days later, I would have been grabbing the bow and heading in the field. It's one of those types of days.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So, Dusty, I wanted to continue on our exploration of urban hunting. We talked to Dan Spencer last week, and he shared some pretty serious urban hunting, where he's hunting in parks and he has to get permission and go through the proficiency testing. I wanted to expand upon that, and I've reached out to a fellow by the name of Brandon Grindle, who is down in Georgia. So we're going to Georgia this week to discuss a little bit more of the urban type setting where he's hunting not necessarily in parks, but in very, very tight quarters, small tracts of land, small pieces of woods that lead basically up to people's backyards, where he has to strategically find places to hunt in order to be successful and ask a lot of permission and ultimately hunt in somebody's backyard because that's the area he's in within city limits in a city in Georgia.
It's going to be insane.
Some of the stories that he is about to tell us will kind of blow you away if you're not used to that kind of thing. You know, I'm used to the big woods. You're used to the country life and the hunting, the big fields, and I'm just not used to hunting in somebody's backyard.
I mean, there's things in this podcast you don't want to miss. This stuff that we've never really talked about before. What could happen in somebody's backyard?
Yeah. And not that I wouldn't try.
What could happen when you're getting ready to go hunt in somebody's backyard?
Right.
There's all kinds of different options, you know. You get into nice, fine homes, and the anti-hunters are in the area. And, man, it's going to be an intense podcast, Jay.
Makes it a bit of an adventure. So without further ado, let's go get Brandon Grindle on the phone and see what it's like suburban hunting in Georgia. Brandon Grindle, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. What's happening?
It's going good. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to talk a little hunting with you guys this evening.
Yeah, man. I'd like to talk hunting too. I'm psyched about that. So we got Brandon Grindle from Buck 50, and you had talked to me about Buck 50 a while back, and I said, you know what? I really like that name. And how did you come up with that name? I've been wanting to ask you this for a while. Where'd that come from?
Well, you know, I can't really take a whole lot of credit of. It's actually a group of three of us, myself, my partner Ryan Locke, and partner Alan Crawford. You know, we've all been hunting buddies for the past few years. Myself and Ryan, we've been partners probably for 10 years hunting. And Ryan's actually the guy who came up with that name. We were just sitting in the kitchen one day talking about, you know, the dream of just filming hunts and sharing it with people, and he just comes out and he blurts the name. I mean, no reason at all. We really have no background as far as why we liked it. We were looking for something creative, something catchy, something that people would remember and maybe relate to a little bit. So that's, you know, nothing special. It kind of happened. So maybe it was meant to be.
So Buck 50. So is it in reference to $1.50 or $150 or something completely other than that?
You know, we get the joke. Sometimes people say that we're all only worth 50 cents a piece since there's only three of us. But, you know, then that's not really the case. You know, I guess it comes down to, you know, that chase for us. And I know all over the country, it's, you know, deer are different. But chasing that 150-inch deer, you know, it's just a dream come true, something we'll do. And maybe we'll get there. Maybe we'll pass it. Who knows? But, you know, it definitely relates to that's the trophy for us guys down here in Georgia.
Right on. I was going to ask you about the Georgia thing. So you're talking about, you know, 150-inch class deer, and how many of those exist in and around the areas you're hunting?
You know, I'll tell you, our top 10 is 151 inches, and our number 10 with a bow is 129 inches. So that tells you they are here, but they are very, very few of them. And we've got some good deer in this area, and it's actually blowing up. I guess more hunters are coming around here now that all these big deer are coming out of the woodworks, but they are few and far between. I've had a privilege to hunt some of the better areas in this general region here, and to be honest, I haven't had 150 on camera yet.
Gotcha. All right, and that's going to happen. It's just
we can change that here in Ohio for you.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you can.
Yeah, Dusty starts at $150 and goes up.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's only our dreams down here. We're still waiting for the day to even see one.
I consider it a doe anything like below 130. That's a doe.
Oh, now you're just hurting my feelings now.
I'm just being serious, man. You know,
hey,
it's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've got out state Illinois the past few years, and they tell us they don't pick their bows up for anything under 150, and probably not even then. Right?
Yeah. You know, the caliber of bucks are different. You know, it's just
they are.
The genetics here and the nutritional value of crop areas we have is phenomenal. But yeah, you can actually just to get on that tangent for a second, or not off tangent, but you can actually set your areas up to have the same mineral and supplement that we have here with a little bit of knowledge and some technique out there in your woods.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's Like I said, I mean, they are here. It's just really understanding what a trophy for our area is and what's not. I mean, just outside of my neighborhood, I've had deer on camera. Neighbors of mine have, that are in the 160s, 170s. And as like I said, with a 150 being a top, that's a absolute giant for these parts. But we just don't have the nutrition and the agriculture that you guys up north do. So that's definitely a little bit of a disadvantage for us.
Now, what's funny, Brandon, is when you said that, you say up north. I'm even further north than both of you guys. And the nutritional value in the New Hampshire forest, quite frankly, is not producing big racks either. So I kind of understand where you're coming from. But we're definitely hunting three completely different territories. That being said, what's the forecast for Georgia this year?
I've heard that they're expecting a really rough winter. To us, rough. If we get an inch of snow down here in Atlanta, they start shutting down highways and people start abandoning their cars. So I don't know what they're thinking rough is, but we, a couple years past, we've had up to 10, 12 inches, and that, like I said, that's a blizzard for us down here. So they're saying we're to expect a little bit more than we have in these recent years. Hopefully, that's a nice cold fall for us because these last few years it's been pretty warm all the way up into November and December.
Right. Yeah, a foot of snow is like, I don't know, a
sunny day.
Yeah, it's a sunny day. It's a quarter inch of rain, and that stuff falls on Halloween for us sometimes. So we literally had about a foot of snow 2 years ago on Halloween. So but it's a different landscape completely where you're hunting. And tell us a little bit more about exactly where that is. Not like GPS coordinates where your tree stands are, but just whereabouts in Georgia are you?
Well, a lot of my stands are actually on the side lands of Lake Lanier. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. That's actually one of the largest man-made lakes I know in the Southeast. It may be in the nation. So that's a really big tourist attraction for our parks. And so I'm in Hall County though. We're about 45 minutes directly north of Atlanta. And like I said, all my spots are just right on lakeside, and maybe that's what keeps them all coming in, all these travel. It's real small woods, all neighborhoods, backyards, downtown city limit spots. It ranges, but nothing large. I've got spots from 3/4 of an acre to my largest was at one point 50 acres, but probably only about 15 of it was huntable.
Gotcha. Okay. So how long have you been involved in this aspect of this particular landscape? Is this something you've engaged in all your life, or is this something that you were introduced to at some point?
Well, before I'm a senior in college right now, okay. So I've been out of high school 4 years, and I'd never picked up a bow till my sophomore year in high school. And the reason being is I grew up hunting with my dad down in South Georgia. Just your typical, we'd go to a hunting club, we call it, and our cabin burnt down. And right at that time, the economy crashed a little bit. And with funds being low, we weren't able to get in another spot. And a buddy of mine, he introduced me to bow hunting. And ever since 10th grade, so I'm going on, I guess, about 8 years now, is when I really, and at that point too, that was at my age is when I really started getting into hunting and teaching myself. So it hadn't been long for me. It's only been 8 short years, and I've started pretty much from scratch because, as everyone knows, bow hunting and gun hunting, they're not the same. All the tactics and techniques are different.
Absolutely. Now, are you bow hunting exclusively now, or is it a bow gun situation?
I am mainly bow hunting. I do like to break the rifle out if I get an opportunity. Let's see, last year I don't even think I brought it out once. The year before I got it out once. So I guess you could say, exclusively bow hunting.
That's awesome, man. Tell me about your experience with the bow. What drew you to that? And do you like it better than gun? If you had to pick one, which one's the best? Oh,
I would by far the bow. Just the thrill and the adrenaline you get is it's night and day. And no, like I said, I don't think I would have ever really picked up the bow really if that accident down at our club getting struck by lightning and burning down would have happened. I guess I was really just thrown into it at that time. I was just freshman in high school. I wasn't really able to drive, and really to get away to any of the big land, you're 2-3 hours away from where we are. So I was kind of just thrown into it. I mean, we had some small town bow archery shoots, and I started doing that. So that kind of got me really shooting. And then I started thinking, well, hey, maybe I can just pop out here. I had some neighbors that owned some land behind the neighborhood, and they let us do a little hunting. And that's really how I got thrown into it. I mean, literally, it's like getting thrown in the water without a life jacket. I had no guide, no nothing. I just had my little bit of foundational of what I thought at the time, how deer moved and, acted during different times of the season.
Gotcha. So did you have somebody that kind of introduced you to the bow, or was that just something like you picked up a magazine one day and said, hey, that looks cool, I want to try that? Where did that come from? A buddy of
mine, a longtime friend buddy of mine named Christian Martin, he's really the one. He had a bow and he shot a little bit. Again, he was an amateur at that time as well. But he's the one who really introduced me. I mean, as soon as we got off the bus, we ran to the house, we grabbed our bows, we shot all day till dark. I mean, that's all we did. I mean, I can't even explain the kind of joy we got from it. So that's how I was really introduced, just backyard shooting, just messing around. I mean, whenever I first picked up the bow, it wasn't really even I'm getting a bow to hunt. It was just to shoot and just to do something different. And then I started kind of figuring out, how to get out in the woods and be productive with it.
All right. So you got introduced to the bow itself, the instrument, and I call it an instrument because it is kind of like playing an instrument. It's there's a technique to it. When did you decide to transition the instrument into a weapon for hunting?
I would say probably about 6-7 years ago, right after I picked it up and started actually, again, at the time, what I thought I was getting accurate and pretty good with it. Immediately, I mean, I've never had a year off of hunting, so even between the transition of hunting club to this backyard hunting with a bow, I was immediately drawn to wanting to learn to get better and just how it all worked. Because, like I said, I mean, it was just I was clueless. Just everything was all new to me at the time.
Right, gotcha. So, how did you start to develop your skill set? I mean, you don't just pick up a bow one day and go hunting the next. What was it like? What were the trials and tribulations and the errors that you made?
Wow, I mean, whenever I first picked up a bow, I didn't even have one, and I actually had my buddy, like I told you, introduced me. He actually had to help me pull his bow back. I was muscular, but a 65-pound bow I couldn't get it back. Just those muscles are different. So he actually had to help me start getting the bow back just to shoot and learn the technique of shooting. But as far as getting out in the woods, I mean, it was just completely trial and error. I had zero clue how to read up close sign and cover, finding trees with cover. And I mean, the whole first year and a half, 2 years, I didn't take a deer with the bow.
Gotcha. And how many deer did you see during that time frame?
Oh, I mean, there was a lot of times we see deer a lot. I mean, we'd go out and see 3 or 4 deer sit, and sometimes we wouldn't see any. So, I mean, the deer were there, and the deer were in range. There were a lot of arrows flying, but that comes with, like I said, not being close enough for my comfort zone. I'm, as a new guy shooting a bow, I'm shooting at deer at 30, 35 yards, which are past some guys' comfort zones who's been shooting for 20 years as a first year shooter, and just missing and just wasn't having any luck. And a lot of that has, when you're up in a tree stand, your technique with a bow, if you don't realize it has to be the same, anchor points, all that stuff, when you're in a tree or when you're shooting flat. And a lot of that I was missing at the time. So I just couldn't connect on any deer.
Gotcha. So what did you do over the time frame to start to hone in on your kill shot?
Well, like I said, I've always been, from day one when I shot, I've always been into, we kind of had some indoor range shooting and stuff. So, I mean, it was everyday shooting target, shooting up there. That kind of got you under a little bit of pressure because you're shooting against, I mean, full guys who are full 3D archers, shooting 298s out of 300s and 300s. So getting that kind of pressure really helped. It's just the repetition of shooting and trial and error of getting out there is what really helped me. And I can even say, I mean, like I said, I started as a freshman, sophomore in high school. I didn't really start having success until my senior year of high school with a bow. So it took that long to really, I mean, year 2, year 3, I'd stick a doe or something like that, but I never really had great success until about 4 years into it.
Okay. Gotcha. So what's your philosophy on hunting? I mean, it's kind of relative to where you are, I guess, or I guess it is. You have to have a certain style, a certain technique, a certain belief in kind of what to take and what not to take. How do you decide?
Around here, I think, to be honest with you, a lot of philosophies fail because there's so much pressure. There's so much illegal activity as far as hunters coming where you're not supposed to be. My biggest thing is just getting out in the woods and being there when they're there. I mean, to be honest, some urban hunting people, there's some technique and stuff to it, but out here, it just all fails whenever you're on 10, 15 acres and you got 4 other guys that actually have access to it and stuff like that. It really is. It's just putting the time in and effort and learning your land and learning your deer herd that you actually do have. And that's really my biggest thing is just putting the homework and time in. Gotcha.
How much time do you spend, like on a weekly basis? How much time do you spend?
Oh, yeah, that's it's. I put more time in here than I do into my job. It's checking trail cameras in the mornings. I'm sitting there flipping through them while I'm in class. I'm getting out. I'm hanging stands. I'm shooting my bow on a daily basis for 1, 2, 3 hours a day with the guys. Right now it's really a lot of time into it because we're feeding weekly up till, season's starting to open up and stuff. So, we put, I would say on an hourly, and definitely when season comes in, I'm looking probably 20, 25, 30 hours a week probably to deal with hunting gotcha. On top of school and work.
So you're working and going to school?
Correct.
Wow. How are your grades?
I am 120 hours into my college career as a biology major, and I'm sitting at a 3.5. So
not bad.
It's all right. Yeah, it's not bad for the time I put into it.
Very nice. Dusty, would you have a question?
Yeah, what I want to know, and this is something that Jay and myself is going to start asking, what drives you to put that kind of time in the woods?
I think just at that time of seeing a deer you've worked so hard for, and I wasn't growing up on trophy hunting, and I love to take the does, I love to take the management bucks, but that thrill I get, I spend so much time, like I've told you, patterning deer or multiple deer a year that whenever I get that opportunity in there, there's no feeling to describe it. And I'm even a little bit more, I think, over the top than most people because I'm so technical with things, like everything. I want to use the best stuff to have that much more success in the woods. But just that feeling of accomplishment, even before you pull the trigger, just to be in the presence of an animal, of that magnitude, it's just that feeling. There's nothing else. There's not even a word to describe what I get. I lock up, I freeze, I shake. I really don't even know how I come to even being steady enough to try and take him.
Right, for sure. It's amazing what a whitetail will do for a guy or a female's mind that chase after him that hard.
Yeah.
That is a feeling that I think, I've certainly had that. It's like it just drives you daily to go do more of it, and the more you get, the more you want to do. It's just this never-ending cycle, and I don't know if you ever really feel like completely satisfied. I think that's one of the things that you just get up the next day and you want to try to do that again for something, maybe a different kind of hunt or a different animal, or there's always, after you check your game cameras, there's always a certain number of animals that you're hoping come across your path.
Yeah, and there's just, there's nothing like, even if you're not out there chasing one that you want, just getting out there and enjoying it is just like, it's a stress reliever for me. Like I said, I'm a pre-med biology major, so the stress of class is definitely there. The weekend job, it's just a way to get out and just erase all of life's challenges and just enjoy, nature, the noises, the fresh air, all that. That's what keeps me going every year.
That's it. That's exactly it. Let's talk a little bit about your technique. You said that most of your hunting is done kind of in a small town, city limits, urban kind of style.
Correct.
So what's the smallest piece of land that you have permission to hunt
on? About 3 houses up from where I'm sitting right now has probably a 70-yard long backyard.
70 yards. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty small.
It gets that small.
All right. And what's the largest piece you have?
I got a piece this year that is roughly about 70 acres. That's actually in city limits.
Okay. So what kind of herds are we talking about in these areas? Are they densely populated? Is there competition amongst hunters to hunt these animals, or are you some of the only game in town?
Oh, no. And definitely now, there's so many. 5 years ago when I first started, I didn't have a clue. I could have went around and snatched up a lot of excellent land that now I know is out there. But in the last 5 years, this area has just really taken off. I was looking at land in a 5-mile radius or more the other day, and there's just not a spot that I haven't caught on or that I know somebody's not on. So, just about every huntable piece of small tract of land there's most likely someone on it, or the people just won't let you hunt it. So it's extremely high competition, and that's just among the legal hunters, not to mention the guys who are just slipping in to places that nobody wants you to hunt and stuff like that. So, competition is extremely high. There's no management really practiced around here. That's what's unfortunate, because some of the deer I've taken would have been excellent deer in a year or 2 years, but it's one of those things that at the time that deer made me happy, and I know if he would have made it past my tree stand to the next guy, he would have taken him. So we got extremely high pressure, and in certain areas, the deer population, there are high, it's surprising. We got Gainesville, it's city right up here, and it's, when I say urban hunting down here to y'all's urban hunting, this is a house to house every 20 feet next to each other urban. So it's really populated, and in places like that, I've seen 18 or 20 deer sit, which is extremely surprising, and it's a very overpopulated area. So places like that, you still have high populations, but then again, you still got all the pressure of every hunter in the area hunting every backyard they can get their hands on.
No kidding. All right, so brings up the next question. What's the attitude like of the people that live in these houses? Are they hunters too, or are they neutral? Are they antis? What are we talking about?
It varies a lot. The place kind of where I told you, Gainesville, there's a lot of antis. I've somehow, luckily, I haven't went up to a door and knocked on one, but every person I asked to, they're like, you better be careful. So-and-so, they'll let you have it. So the attitude, it varies definitely. I run into several of my spots I have now, our neighbors are antis, and they come out there yelling at me when I'm in my camo going in the woods that they feed the deer and they watch the deer, and that I can't hunt them, when I have written permission to hunt. And sometimes you just got to walk into the woods with them screaming at your back, just trying to mess up everything.
Okay. What's the socioeconomic breakdown in that area?
It's we have, being on the lake, we're pretty, it's a lot of the higher class area for here. So we are fairly well in this general vicinity right around the border and stuff like that. But where most of where I hunt is too, yeah, there's a lot of high-fluting people.
Okay. All right. So I want to hear your approach. All right. So pretend I am a highfalutin, kind of snobby, rich dude that drives a Jaguar, and I have immaculate grounds. What do you say to me? And by the way, I'm the exact opposite of that. I drive a rusty old Chevy pickup truck with over 200,000. Yeah, no Jaguar.
Well, I'll see if I can pretend to. My first thing is I definitely don't go up to a door dressed in full camo, a long drawn out beard, which I can barely grow anyways. But a person kind of like them, I try to get on their level. And as soon as I knock on the door, the first thing they see is I've got a big smile. For some reason, around here, they answer their doors and they're hiding behind their doors like somebody's about to jump in. So, the first thing, I just go up, I've got a real friendly smile. I don't jump right into it. I kind of ask them how their day's going. I mention my name. I'm just going around the area, looking for some spots to bow hunt in between school. I try to bring up school, stuff like that, let them know that I am I'm not just a backwoods guy, that I'm trying to do good for myself. And I tell them, I see you've got a little acreage behind your place, and I was curious if you're willing to give out some permission for me to bow hunt this season. And from there, I feel them out before they answer. If I kind of seen them leaning away, I'll try to jump in any way I feel I can. And if sometimes they jump right into it, and then we talk for an hour, 2 hours after that, and just off-topic stuff.
Okay, so you kind of get to know them a little bit better.
Yeah, I try to fill them out. I don't go out there and just say, "Hey, can I hunt your land?" I try to just put it in the most presentable, well-educated way that I can, and a lot of times, because that's what I think people are afraid. They're willing to give out their permission, but they're so afraid of being sued over an accident or someone that, they're going to let somebody on their land that's not educated and going to be slinging arrows through their back door.
Gotcha. So you don't go for the sell on the first pitch.
No, I try to open up with, I'm a nice guy. I'm not here to rob you.
I guess that would be a good start. Definitely. Okay. So that kind of describes who you're dealing with. describe to us the landscape. But what's it look like to you? I mean, is it flat? Is it hilly? Are we talking about fields? What are we looking at?
Well, we have right here where I'm at, we have zero agriculture, fields at all. There's not really any cow pastures. There's nothing. It's all mainly timber. A lot of it's real small tracts. I mean, there's a little terrain elevation and stuff, but when I say that, I mean, you're talking maybe an elevation of 30, 40 feet. So nothing at all. It's just real small. I mean, like I said, it's so hard. There's not really a good description because it's all backyards. There's not a big enough piece of land to say we've got rolling hills. It's just real small block timber, really.
Okay. So when you say field, how big is a field?
Well, we don't really have it. I don't have any fields where I'm at. But,
okay.
Yeah.
And so a field is just a backyard, basically. It's a patch of grass.
Pretty much,
right.
Yeah.
And when you say timber, what's the timber? What kind of wood are we talking about? What kind of trees?
I've got some spots that's got some thick pines, mature pines, and the underbrush. I've got open hardwoods. That's pretty much it. Just your standard hardwood ridges and your small pine thickets.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So now, what's your strategy? Now that you've laid out the landscape there, and we kind of know what you're dealing with. How big are these pieces of woods we're looking at? What do the funnels look like? What are you looking for in the woods?
Really, see, now that kind of starts with when I'm out looking for land, I don't just go knocking door to door. I know this area well enough, word of mouth, where people have seen good quality deer in the past, where I've seen deer. So I'm targeting areas that I know just in the general vicinity have at least potential for quality deer. So as soon as I get permission, I know there's a chance for something to be there. My first absolute step is to find a GIS map where I can see the next big tract of land where these deer may be headed. Just kind of funny to say, any backyards these deer may be traveling through to get to me. So I'm kind of finding, because when I say you're only on an acre of land in a backyard, I mean, how much do you really have? There's no scouting. It's my first step after getting that and finding kind of where I think they may be coming from is set out trail cameras just to see what's there.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a very limited scouting abilities here. Like I said, I just gained a 70-acre tract, but even then, there's just not much scouting to it. It's so grown up and so congested with houses and buildings.
Is it possible to say that you get more pictures of a guy on a lawnmower than you get deer traveling through the area?
Well, I'm lucky enough to not have that. I get some power company guys every now and then acting like a deer on my camera, but I've done pretty well with keeping people out. I see more people in the deer stand, though. No, that's a different story.
So, quick question: What holds these deer in them small areas? Are they just travel corridors, or is some timber that they're headed to?
It's really just a lack of place they have to go.
Okay.
They're holding up in these little 10, 15-acre tracts, and then at night they're out in everyone's front yards eating on their bushes and all their fertilized lawns. So it's really just because they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, I got you. Now it's all kind of come together. Just I need you to explain that, how it was coming through the people's backyards, and then so what you're saying is you're trying to get them on a pass through, kind of either early morning coming back or late evening going to.
Correct.
And pretty much they're not going to anything except for like shrubbery and green grass.
And this is a very congested area. I mean, I'll be driving to my stand and there will be 6 or 7 deer laid up next to someone's sidewalk by their front door.
No kidding.
In the middle of the afternoon. I mean,
that's intense, dude.
They're just there. They have nowhere to go.
So okay, I'm on. This has got my interest sparked.
Yeah.
So you're literally in these people's back lawn.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many kids playing in their backyards, people walking their dogs, people using their bathrooms off their back decks. Unfortunately, I mean, it goes.
Wow.
There's anything you could expect to see in a neighborhood, you can. And like I said, that is on one of my congested. I do have some, like I said, the 70 acres, the 10, 15. They're a little less, I don't have somebody right on top of me, but majority of it is yes, all.
Have you had a situation where, let's say you sink an arrow in one of these deer and they take off running? Does it get like up by the back door of somebody else's place?
Oh yeah. I'm one of, even if I have permission to be on land, I try to stay as as undercover as I can because, like I said, I don't want a neighbor seeing me who may be anti, and then they're over there arguing with the people who are giving me permission, and then I get kicked off because of it. So, yes, I have had deer run into the middle of green, grassy front yards and just die over, and I'm immediately jumping out of my stand before a car comes driving down the main road, seeing this deer laid up in a nice front yard. Closer to my home, my house, I've got some spots around. You're more in your average blue collar homes.
Dude, you like playing with dynamite. You're playing with dynamite there.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it.
So you got to be real careful, and the cover up has to be as planned out and as expedient as getting into your stand and getting ready, basically.
Of course, yeah. There's a lot of times that before I go in, I have to kind of just act like I'm just another guy in the driveway while the neighbor's out in their front yard before I put my camo and my stand on and grab my bow and run off into the backyard. I got to be real careful with it and try, like I said, try to stay as undercover as I can, really.
So not only are you like a deer hunter, but you're like a private eye to get to the back lawn without getting busted.
Right.
Oh yeah, some secret agent stuff. I mean, it's pretty stealthy.
So a situation. Let's get into one. Just curiosity sparks my interest here again. Say one of the antis has come out on you. How do you talk to them? Let's say have you had one approach you, like walk up and say, "Hey, what's going on here?"
Oh yeah. Last season I was at a spot right here by my neighborhood. It's a 12-acre tract, and it's literally all four sides of the land are one side of it's bordered by a gated, really high class community. The other two sides are kind of lower class homes. So
this is great. Really, this is really great. I love this.
We're standing there getting ready to go in, me and my buddy Ryan, and the neighbor starts walking down, and you can just tell. Well, she's coming down. I can tell the look at her for what she's coming for.
Tell me what an anti-hunter looks like coming down the sidewalk.
I mean, she's speed walking. She's got her hands on her hips. She looks like she's upset with life, really.
Oh man! And, she's hungry.
I'll walk up to her just to be friendly, and she starts kind of laying into me. Just what am I doing? She feeds the deer and all this, and I'll tell you, well, ma'am, the landowners, they're not local, so I watch out for trespassers stuff. They let me bow hunt, which is all legal. Within city limits, there's no regulation. You don't have to be any distance from a house or anything. And she just starts laying out, and I tell her, I've got written permission. You can call the DNR. I know the head of DNR. He can tell you all the rules, and she doesn't care. She doesn't care if I have permission. Doesn't care what I'm doing or who comes. I feed these deer. These are my deer. You can't hunt here. So I said, well, okay, ma'am. Well, and I just got in my truck and I went to another access point and I went and climbed my stand.
Dang.
That's crazy, dude.
It's crazy.
There's a lot of excitement. That's for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
What'd your buddy say? He was with you, correct?
Yeah. He kind of stayed hidden over behind the door. I think he kind of knew what was coming.
Here, you go talk to her. Yeah. Very nice. So, Brandon, let's move on and talk a little bit about your gear setup. What type of products, what type of bows you shooting, what type of clothing, boots, soaps, all that stuff? What are you using? What's your normal repertoire?
Well, starting, just my basic get up and go in the morning. I like to use all the scent away soaps, shampoos whenever I can. I wash my clothes in any kind of scent free or earth scent stuff. Hunter specialty, just the standard stuff. That I don't use a lot of rattling, grunting. In my particular area, I do know people in this area who have deer come running in. But so as far as products in the woods, it's mainly just me and my gear to make the hunt successful. But other than that, that's about as far as it goes.
Gotcha. Okay. You worry about smell, boots, rubber boots, that kind of thing?
Correct. Yeah. I wear all the Under Armour gear. I use my muck boots, all insulated, scented stuff like that. I spray down going in the woods. So, I do try, you would think being in all this urban area that scent wouldn't really matter. And I tell you, these are some of the smartest deer I've ever hunted.
Gotcha.
I mean, they come through the woods looking up in the trees and they will scent check you in a heartbeat.
Gotcha. All right, now I got to ask a question. I'm looking at your buck 50 photo of the four of you, and every one of you has black face paint on. If this were the 1970s, you'd be a rock band with 8-inch leather heels called Kiss, right? So how important is the face paint to you?
In that picture, it was more of a kind of an effect thing. I definitely think it helps break up our figure in the stand. Whether it's face paint or face mask, I definitely like to have something covering me up.
Okay, gotcha. I'd like to go on a deer hunt with you here, Brandon, and I'd like to have kind of Dusty run us through that and take us on a tour of one of your hunting setups with your most memorable deer hunt that you can think of. And let's start, a couple days before the hunt and the prep.
When are we going back to, Brandon? What year?
Okay, we'll start in 2010. This is actually a year before I harvested the deer I'm going to tell you about here. And this is actually when I started having all my success as a bow hunter. I'm on it's actually a 50-acre tract surrounded all by apartment complexes, houses, neighborhoods on all four sides. But of the 50 acres, only probably about 15 of it was hardwood huntable forest. Well, it's 2010. I finally got a new tract of land and I put a camera out for the first time. And week one, I have 5 bucks on camera. Like I said, this has never happened to me. And I'm truly a kid in a candy store at this point because I've got bigger deer than I've ever seen in the woods on camera. And it took me that whole year of just tracking, whole off-season tracking, hunting. I was able to harvest one of those bucks, but not the buck I wanted to that year. And so the next year in 2011, I started over again. And it come to find out, 2010, the deer I thought I was chasing, which was an 8-point in 2010, turned out not to be the same deer that I got on camera the next year, which happened to be a 10-point. So day one of summer scouting, I'm getting deer on camera from the start, a whole group of them, and I figure they're going to run the same pattern. So all summer, every week I'm in there, I'm walking this little bit of woods I can just to try and figure out where these deer may be entering my patch of woods because they're not staying there. And so it's taken this whole summer of preparation, feeding and scouting to the little bit I can, and Come fall, I hunt all the way until we open up in September 12th. And so it's taken me all the way into December, and I haven't yet laid eyes on this deer, and he's a big 10-point. A lot of deer moving all day, morning, midday, afternoon, and I'm actually seeing some bucks I've never seen. And I'm the kind of hunter that I'm seeing deer, I'm moving to them. I'm not sitting out, if I've got to go in a little earlier to get there, I am. So the day before I harvest this buck, I'm sitting on the edge of the power line and I see a deer actually running in the backyards of these apartment complexes. And I couldn't get my my binoculars up fast enough to see what he was, but I knew he was a nice mainframe deer. So I decided I had a lock on just set up right down in the ridge at the bottom of this really steep hill that went up to the apartments. I'm sitting here in my lock on and I just so happen to look over. I got a creek running through my property and I look over and this deer is standing in the privet. All you can see is his head, and he's looking towards the power line. And immediately when I saw him, I didn't have to count or anything. I knew it was him. At this point, he's probably about 45, 50 yards away. And to be honest with you, I think I almost blacked out. I'm not quite sure what all happened. I was shaking. I was nervous. I mean, I hate knowing what it is when there's time for him, when he's not already in shooting distance. So he's standing here and he's checking. You could tell he's trying to check the wind. And at this point, this stage of my hunting career, I'm not hunting the wind. I'm not hunting. I'm hunting where I'm seeing deer. And, this is 4 years ago. So, I'm still in my learning stages of bow hunting. And luckily enough, I guess, I don't even remember what the wind direction was, but he's not scenting me. And next thing I know, he takes a cut and he's starting to come straight to me. And I just tell myself, I just remember saying it over and over in my head, don't try to shoot this deer until he passes you. He was standing 15 yards from my stand to my right, wide open where I had actually fed him all year. There was no feed on the ground or anything at the time because we can't legally hunt over food here in Georgia. But he was checking that area, and it took everything in my body not to stand up and draw and stick him at 15 yards. So he stands there, and it feels like hours. I know it was probably only seconds, like everyone says, but this deer's still working to me, and he starts working up the trail that I actually came in on, and he is standing at this point directly. I'm looking at him through the mesh of my lock-on stand, and at this point, I know he can't see me because he's directly under me. was just my main thing. I didn't want to try to stand and get ready while he was walking towards me. So he's standing directly below me. And at this point, I stand up, and he, as fast as lightning, he throws his head up. He never looks up at me, but I don't know if he had a feeling, if he heard something, but he just starts looking around in a panic, but he doesn't move. At that point, he's kind of swinging his head around, panicking, and I go in a full draw, and this deer is directly below me under my stand. No more can I emphasize how close he was to me. And I stick my bow over the additional rail I had on this lock on, and I shot him straight through the spine, and he dropped directly in his tracks right under me. And at that point, not even seeing this deer walk off, no blood trail, I immediately, as an ethical hunter, I know I know my bow penetrated his spine, went down through his cavity, but he's laying there, still expiring. And I immediately, after that shot, put a second arrow through, where I'm 100% confident his vitals are, just to make sure he finishes off as fast as he can. But at that point, I was so emotional that this is my second deer with a bow, my third buck I've only ever killed. And he happened to be 127 inches. And like I said, I know to you guys, Dusty, 150 you don't pick your bow up on. But this guy, he hit the dirt, and I just lost it. I kind of teared up a little bit, just an excitement. All the adrenaline just released. I couldn't stop shaking. I immediately just got on the phone and called my dad, because ever since I've been bow hunting up here, we haven't really got to hunt much, but he's still been, every time I get a good deer or something, I tell him. And so I'm on the phone with him, and I'm just about kind of tearing up in excitement. And he's laughing, talking to his boss right next to him, telling him I just shot a big 10-point. And at that point, I just sat there and just let it all vent out and just kind of understand what just happened. I just took the best buck of my life at point blank range. And it just all worked out for me. After what I thought to be a 2-year trek, like I said, I'll tell you, that deer actually the year before dropped his antlers in the house that let me hunt. He dropped both sides at their back porch, and he was a typical 10-point the year before.
Oh, wow.
So I was chasing a big 8 thinking it was him previously when it wasn't. And I'd never had him on camera in 2010 like I thought I did. So 2011, when I started chasing him, that was actually the first year I had him on camera and chased him. But so it just all unleashed. I'd accomplished something I never thought I would at that age. Because like I said, our number 10 in Hall County is a 129 with a bow. And, being at 127 inches, that's still my best deer to date.
Oh, yeah. For your area, that's a stud, man, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand, that the different areas produce different antler growth.
Yeah, you got to realize what your trophy is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. I'm headed out to Jay's in November, and it's going to be a different hunt for me. Jay's big deer, they're 130, 140. Big bodies, not real huge racks.
Right.
But, man, heck of a story.
Yeah, great story, Brandon.
It just goes to show you that it doesn't matter how big the deer is, that, we all are feeling the same emotions on every deer we kill.
Yeah, it was something else, and it's still one of my best hunts to date. That's for certain.
Very nice. Brandon, where do you want to take Buck 50? What's the plan?
Our plan in this is really, we see, and not to criticize anyone that's already in the industry and stuff, but we have a personal feeling as a group that this generation, even at our age, not everyone at our age sees the things we see. We feel like that so many people are getting spoiled with thinking you have to go out here in Hall County and shoot 150-inch deer, and if you don't, you're not accomplishing, you're not hunting. So our whole goal is to really just show that, here in Georgia in Hall County, we're going to pull the trigger on 120-inch deer, but when we travel up to Illinois, we're going to pull the trigger on 150, 60-inch deer. So, no matter what, they're all going to be trophies. So we want to bring back the reality and just understanding what the foundation of hunting was. And, we've been working really hard as a group. We don't want to hit this industry by ourselves. We've been trying to build a circle and just a group of other shows. I mean, we've got a Primal Urge, Lost Velvet Outdoors, Ate Up With It Outdoors. We're building a circuit and a network of teams that all share the same values to show that you don't have to compete with other shows to be successful. I mean, we want to build memories and stories, and that's where we want to take it.
That's awesome. I like the direction of Buck 50. That's fantastic. So as a hunter, what type of magazines do you turn to for knowledge?
down here where we're at, I've got a magazine called like Buckmasters and our Georgia magazine, GON. It's more of GON's more of a showcasing magazine of the different deer getting taken, but they have all kinds of write-ups of just tactics and strategies. And being from local people, it has, I look at those kind of magazines, especially because some of those tactics they're working here in Georgia and in areas that I'm hunting. So I try to stick to more of local magazines over anything, and that's I've used a lot of those tactics to take a lot of the deer that I have now.
Gotcha. If you had to give us one hunting tip and one only, the best one you got, what's your best hunting tip of all time?
My best hunting tip, I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy, no matter how big, how small the land is. And I know I probably get a lot of criticism for that, but I have found my best accomplishment is just getting out and finding the actual sign of these deer, not just relying on trail camera, but actually seeing where these deer are moving, whether it be 1,000 acres or not really much walking on 1 acre, but you understand the point there. So yeah. Get out and learn your deer herd, learn their movement, become them while you're out scouting and just seeing how they're moving the land.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So if you had this one thing, this one item, this device, this one thing that you can't live without, that drives you crazy if you leave it in the truck because you forgot it there, that's not your weapon or firearm or bow, what's that one thing that drives you crazy if you leave it in the truck?
I'd have to say, although I do 3D competition and stuff like that, I'm pretty well at judging yardage. I love to have my rangefinder with me. If I ever leave that thing or drop it in the woods, I sit up in the stand. It just makes me that much more nervous, and I become that much more confident when I have it with me. That way, whenever that deer's walking up, I'm not trying to double think, well, is it 30 or is it 35? I'm focusing on a ethical shot, and that's the only thing I'm on. So I'd have to say my most important tool is a rangefinder to make my hunt successful.
That's fantastic. Brandon, this has been just a great conversation. I thought we talked about a lot of great things, and you painted a perfect picture of the areas you're hunting and how you go about it, and gave me a visual, an exact visual of what to expect when you're hunting in Georgia. So I appreciate you for doing that, and it's been an honor talking to you.
Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity. I had an awesome time just talking some stories, and I'm glad I gave you guys a good picture of what I have to deal with on a yearly basis down here in Georgia.
And a few laughs, too, I have to admit. That was pretty good.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys got a laugh out of it.
Yep, good.
It's pretty cool, man.
Very good. Thanks for joining us on the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Appreciate it, guys.
So how would you like to have an anti-hunter come steaming down your driveway?
No, it'd be the greatest thing since sliced bread, anti-hunter come talking to me.
I've had a few encounters over the years, and, I wasn't exactly hunting like Brandon is, but you get into some of those areas where you have some people that might be partaking in a hike and they just don't like you being there. And you can just tell they have this body language before they even start talking.
Before before they speak.
Yep. It's just like watching a big buck. You learn the body language and you know what they're going to say. You know what they look like.
Absolutely. And one thing that's guaranteed, as soon as a big deer hits the front end of their Mercedes-Benz, they're always pissed off.
Absolutely.
I don't get that.
Yep. There's no question about it. Well, thanks to Brandon Grindle for joining us on the Big Buck Podcast and kind of telling us what he's got going on with Buck 50. So good luck to all of his adventures, and, good luck hunting over the rhododendrons. Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week this week?
We do have a Chubby Tines tip of the week.
What do you got?
Talk to your farmer. See if he'll leave you that 10 rows of soybeans along the edge of the woods, or maybe that 15 rows of corn along the edge of the field while you're staying. Give him a little bit of a late season food source right there in front of you. I'm sure if you talk to your farmer and offer him a little cash to cover the cost of the crops, he'd be more than happy to leave you a little bit.
Interesting. You think they would do that if you walked up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Right. You offer up to pay for the crop that he's going to leave, it ain't going to cost you a whole lot.
Right. That's a good idea. I haven't thought about that. I may have to try that. That's fantastic. Good tip this week, Dusty. Are you still doing the $59.99 or $59.90? Is it $59.99 or $59.95 buck naming special?
It's one of the above.
One of the above. All right.
Absolutely. I'm still doing it. Heck yeah.
I was just checking, just making sure.
Absolutely. You submit your buck picture, and if you'd like for me to name it, we'll call you and have you on the show and tell you the official name of your buck.
Very nice. Excellent. I also wanted to, since we're on that subject of raising money, you can also join us at bigbuckregistry.com/pledge, and you can pledge your support there, or you can also go to, if you just want to make a pure donation, bigbuckregistry.com/donate.
Yeah, and every little bit helps us out. Keeps the show moving forward, and it doesn't matter if it's $1, $5, $50, $100, whatever you can offer us. We much appreciate it. And remember, your buck goes a long way.
It sure does. Helps us keep bringing these bucks to life and archiving the stories forever in our vault of buck stories. So, Dusty, where can we reach you when you're not hanging out with me here on the microphone?
You can shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can also look me up on Facebook, Chubby Tines Outdoors. You can also check out my other Facebook page, which is Chubby Gobbler, if you're a turkey hunter. If you wanted to hit me up on Instagram, @ChasingAntler. Jay, how can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic with me here on the Big Buck Registry?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to invite you to join us on the iTunes reviews. And Dusty, we moved up to number 34 this week. You know, I think as deer season grows, as we did last year, we keep moving up the charts. But I'd love to get some more reviews going. So if you're a listener of the show and you have an Apple device, please visit us at bigbuckregistry.com/iTunes and leave us a review. Do a search for Big Buck Registry, and you'll find the reviews section there. If you would like to submit a buck to the page and get in front of about 170,000 followers and be famous for a day because you shot a nice deer, go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck. And we do have an app. We have two apps, actually. We have one for Android through the Google device, and we have one for listening to the show on Apple. And you can download those apps by going to bigbuckregistry.com/app. That's the Apple one. And if you have an Android, go to bigbuckregistry.com/G-app for Google app. Other than that, you can send us an email, j@bigbuckregistry.com, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com, and you can give us a call at 724-613-2825. Facebook is facebook.com/bigbuckregistry or on Twitter, and that's twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. So that's everywhere you can find us on social media, and I think they covered that, Dusty.
Big buck everywhere. A big buck.
Yes, sir. Well,
what a great show. Brandon, thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the listeners for tuning in with us every weekend, 5 a.m. Saturdays. Man, it just pumps me up every show. Thrilled to have all the listeners.
Yes, and can't thank you enough for tuning in. Hope you love the show. Leave us one of those reviews if you could. And you know what? We're going to see you next week right here on the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Fuller.
This is the Big Buck Registry Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.